Welcome, Facebook family, to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brunson. It is our last episode of the year, so we're going to end this year talking about maintaining and building and maintaining trust in your relationship. So that's what we're going to end our year with, and we just want to thank y'all for coming in when you come in, and just we're going to start right there.
Yep. And for those of you who don't know, we are representing Crown Kingdom Cultural Center, where our pastors Finest Bush and Denise Bush. And so we are here to hopefully encourage you in your marriage so that we can teach you some skills and so you can learn how to go about managing your marriage in a way that is productive and spirit-led. So that's what we're here for. And as he said, this is our last episode for 2022. We will be back in 2023. And so we'll have some details about that for you closer to that time in January.
So with that being said, we just want to thank you all for coming in again and talk about this idea of trust.
Can I interrupt you a little bit?
Sure.
If you all would do us a favor of tagging some folks that you think might appreciate the program, share, like, share, subscribe? So we need your support to help get this message out. And that's really the point of it all, is to reach couples so that they can have some tools in their tool belt to manage their marriage relationship. Marriage can be a challenge. It can be a joy. It is a blessing, but it does take skills. And so that's what we're here for, is to support you in that. And there's very often people deal with their marriage issues privately and without support, and we don't want that to be the case. So just sending them a video, you never know how much that might help somebody in a time of need when they're dealing. Trust is a big issue, and we dare not try to tackle it all at one time. But we're just going to scratch the surface a little bit and talk about building trust, maintaining trust, and just kind of be a little bit concrete with it, and to get you thinking about it, and so that you can be on top of your game.
So when you're talking about trust in a relationship, it's one of the basic ingredients to a healthy marriage relationship. What trust seems to do is to help both people, the husband and the wife, feel safe, secure, and supported within the area of the marriage relationship. So with that being said, when you're dealing with that lifelong union that you share with somebody, the ingredient of trust makes it where if I should know what my wife is doing. She should know what I'm doing. She should know that she could trust me to do what I say I'm going to do. She should trust me to know that if I say I'm going somewhere, I'm going to that place. Without the idea of why are you going there? She shouldn't have that idea of where she is going. That trust should be the thing that keeps y'all where if the trust is good, the integrity will be intact also. So we're just going to discuss some ways to build and maintain the trust in the marriage relationship, because this is something that happens for a lifetime.
Right. And,
we talked about, as we were planning this lesson, people are in different places when you're talking about trust in a relationship. It's not that trust is built on how should I say this? Built on what our trust is built on, because people have come into the relationship from different places or different spaces as far as life has treated them. Maybe you're in a relationship that you were cheated on before you got married to that individual, or you might have some trust issues with your family, like we discussed earlier. So we don't want to, through the planning of this, we figured out we don't want to make this where the things that we give out are so concrete, because there may actually be some development that you got to go through to get to where we're talking about tonight.
Right. So I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, another way of saying what you're saying is that people have different trust issues, or people treat trust differently. It means it can have a different level of importance in different people's lives.
Right.
And for some people, trust can be very hard to earn, hard to give, and hard for you to. Some people are not naturally trustworthy, and so it's something there's an individual responsibility for each person in the marriage to work on being trustworthy and also to work on trusting your spouse. And so we didn't really want to get into the weeds of that.
Right.
But like I said, we're just going to scratch the surface and give you some basics concerning trust. But feel free to add in the comments anything that you'd like to support what we're talking about today.
Right. So one thing you can do to build trust in a relationship is have open communication.
Yes.
We talk at least once a month in the shows that we do about communication, how important it is. But communication in that act of building trust with your spouse is very important. You got something more to say about it?
Well, to me, that's everything. Because if there's a lot of secrecy between the two of you, then trust is going to be scarce. There has to be open, honest communication. The opposite of that would be secrecy. And that secrecy is an enemy to trust. And anywhere that there's secrecy and darkness, that's a playground for Satan too.
Oh, he's going to play that too.
Yeah, when there's secrets between the two of you that are, or there's things between the two of you, issues or topics between the two of you that you can't discuss openly and that you're discussing somewhere else with someone else and not with your spouse, that's going to be an issue to where trust is scarce because there is that level of secrecy there. And anywhere you find secrecy in a relationship, there is that a clear opportunity for the enemy to thrive there in that darkness and in that secrecy. So I think communication, I'm glad that was the first point that you brought up because I think it is a critical piece. You don't trust people who you can't talk to. If I can't talk to you and have a open conversation with you, there's no way I'm going to truly trust you enough for us, the two of us, to be one.
Right.
I've got to be, if we're going to be vulnerable and intimate enough for the two of us to be one, I have to be able to trust you. I have to be able to talk with you, or else trust is going to be an issue. If we can't communicate openly, then we don't trust each other.
And that open communication creates that vulnerability between you two, which is another point. Because that vulnerability lends itself to, you're sharing with me something that you may not share with anybody else. So now that's something that we have in common that should not be talked about by anybody else, just me and you.
It's just between us.
So that builds that level of, okay, trust. I can trust you with that information. Somebody, when you're testing the trust, I guess some people test trust. When you're talking to your spouse and you tell them something, and where you can break that trust is when you are in a heated moment, you throw it back at them.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You break it down. I mean, you break them down by telling them something or repeating something that you told them that should be brought back up as a form of hurt or trying to hurt them.
Yeah.
So when you share that vulnerability, that's a good space for y'all to be in. It's a real good space when somebody's vulnerable enough to tell you something about them that they haven't really shared with anybody else.
Well, and it's a good feeling to know that your spouse is, no matter how upset you get with one another, they're not going to put your business out. That develops, that's a way of building trust. So in the event that there is an issue or a hot moment to come up between the two of you, when you find that your spouse still protected what was important to you, still protected and covered you, even though they were in a position where they could have put you out there on Front Street and they chose not to, that builds trust between the two of you. And the opposite is true as well, because it tears down trust if you do that to your spouse. And that trust sometimes can be hard to win back. It's a whole lot harder to win back trust that's been violated than it is to build trust from the beginning.
Right. Okay. Also, your boundaries. Set your boundaries with each other. You know that there's a saying, leave and cleave. You need to set that boundary between you and your spouse. What goes on between you and your spouse, most times if there's not abuse or if there's not abuse being involved in that relationship, then you need to keep the information between y'all two. If y'all just got a situation where y'all just can't get along, y'all need to decide how y'all want to handle that. Don't go to mom and them or your best friends who ain't married and try to get good marriage advice from them. You need good mentors that can direct you in how to settle those issues in your marriage.
Mm-hmm. And that takes trust too, to find mentors that you actually trust, because that can be an obstacle for some couples, is that they because they may not trust other people easily.
Right.
Sometimes that can be a closed door for you getting the help you need in your marriage relationship. So, that's another factor with trust, is being able to trust someone enough to help you in your marriage relationship. And sometimes that takes building relationship. I think all the time it takes. Well, not always, because if you can go to a counselor that you don't necessarily know, but you may trust them with some things that are personal and private. But that's something to factor in as well, is learning to trust someone with your information in order to help you in your marriage relationship. So.
And I think also when you just mentioned going to a counselor, that helps. If that's the mediator between you and your spouse, that helps you get out some information, because you're telling the person who, by license, they are directed and ethically to keep your information secure and private. So you might be able to talk to those people, but if you're talking to your best friend and your closest relatives who are not that person, you might want to hold back and set those boundaries. Set those boundaries.
But among each other,
right,
you need to work on building that level of trust with each other by not having secrecy between the two of you.
All right. And when you're talking about trust, in a situation where you may have experienced your trust has been violated, when you're dealing with your spouse, your husband and your wife, some things may look like what you've experienced, but keep that person in a position of, okay, I'm going to give that person the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about that, because we discussed it and you had something to say about it.
I don't remember specifically what I said.
It was a good point.
Well, in general, giving your spouse the benefit of the doubt, I think I know what I said, is that it's important for you to assume that they had positive intentions, rather than to let your default be that you assume that your spouse is doing something wrong, or that your spouse has negative intentions towards you. Give them the benefit of the doubt, so that you're not proving them wrong before they can even prove themselves right or wrong.
Right.
So that gives opportunity for there to be trust.
Mm-hmm. So that's what she said, y'all. I just want to give her a chance to get that out. But as you're building trust, as you get to know each other and get deeper into your relationship, you got to learn how to also maintain that trust, which is the second part of our discussion tonight. How to maintain that trust that you've built. How are we going to do that? The first thing is you can do that we're going to talk about is your shared experiences. Do something with each other that you normally wouldn't do. Or just like I go back to a couple weeks ago when my wife was going to go to a football game with me. She don't care nothing about no football, but she was going to go with me because I asked her, and it was more or less a special game, which I'm, showing the shirt off tonight. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. Go Bulldogs. But anyway, where you going?
I was giving you room to be.
Oh, we good. We good. They all right. Them Bulldogs know. So she was gonna go to a game with me, and that was one of those things that helps to build that trust and camaraderie with you and your wife. So that's all I have to say about it. You got anything?
What you want to say?
I don't know what you want to say about life, shared life experiences.
Oh, shared life experiences.
Yeah.
Well, it shows that I think the reason this is important for trust is when you take part in an activity that you're not necessarily comfortable doing, but you choose to do it for your spouse, that shows that you care and that you are allowing yourself to be vulnerable or in a space where you aren't at your maximum for the sake of your spouse. Mm-hmm. And like for me, not that going to a football game is challenging, I just don't like it. But I will do it because he asked me to. It's not where I want to be. It's not the thing that I enjoy, but I will endure it for just to be with him because he asked me to, in a nutshell. And so that helps him to develop a respect for the fact that I would choose to do something that I don't want to do just to please him. And that's not a space that I always live in, to put it nicely. And so I think it really does mean a lot to him to do that. And so it does increase trust. It also increases, it teaches me that, okay, you're a person I can count on. I asked you to do something. You aren't gaining anything from it, but you're only doing it because I asked you to. So it shows that how important I am in your life. It shows that you're willing to be uncomfortable for me. It shows that you're willing to make a sacrifice for me. And that absolutely builds up trust. Mm-hmm. Absolutely builds up trust. So we encourage that that's something you can do to maintain that trust as well, which is really what we want you to work towards. Is if you already have a good relationship between you and your spouse concerning trust, actively work to maintain it and to continue to build that trust, and just make it more and more solid over time. Reinforce it.
All right. Show consideration and care. What can you do to show consideration and care when you're talking about building trust with your spouse? When you show consideration and care, you make your spouse feel valued. Like mm-hmm. what you think about them actually matter.
Right.
So that's why you should show consideration and care.
I'm looking over your shoulder. That's what I'm saying. No, you're okay. You leaving me? Mm-hmm. All right. So I will go with his notes here since he's gone. He has to make sure your partner knows that they are valued. You can do this by proactively taking on a chore that your partner would otherwise do, trying out a new love language, or simply complimenting your partner. All those things just reinforce the fact that you're thinking about me, or you are going out of your way to make sure that I know how you feel about me. Those things build up trust. It's hard to trust somebody who you feel doesn't really care about you. But if I know you care about me enough in my absence that you will take the time to plan ahead for my comfort or for to make my life easier, that absolutely makes me trust you more. But if you don't give me an indication that you're, if I can't trust you no further than what I see you, that's an expression we hear say it sometimes. There's something to gain from understanding that, if I can't trust you no more than what I can see you, then that means I can't trust you much at all. Mm-mm. And so let your spouse know that you're thinking about them even when they are not in your presence. That's important.
It is.
And in these days, even something as simple as a text message can accomplish that. Mm-hmm. You can always go with an oldie but goodie, sending flowers or gifts. Those are different. Kind of goes into different love languages. Planning ahead to even like bringing dinner home, right, which is what you did today. It does. It shows that you're thinking about your family, thinking about in their absence. And so that goes to build trust. But if you don't ever if I don't see no evidence that you think about me in my absence, then that lends itself, especially if a person is already insecure, then that's going to lend itself to feed into that insecurity, which we hope that's not an issue. Because if you're dealing with insecurity, then that's something you as an individual gonna have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to deal with. Please don't live in that space.
Oh no. So even if you're doing great things to build that trust in your relationship, and say if you do make a mistake, admit it and quickly handle it. Mm-hmm. Do not let it linger, because when you let it linger, it has a tendency to cause a gap in the trust. I guess in the trust between you, it forms a wedge between you and your spouse as far as trust.
Well, it leaves room for unforgiveness.
Mm-hmm. And you don't need to do that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, you don't need that. And the longer that conflict or that unresolved issue sits between you, the more it starts to erode away, not only at trust, but at other things that are foundational in your relationship as well. So it's important to keep that at the forefront and make sure that you are not giving room. It makes me think about that scripture: "Be angry, but sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath." Don't let that anger and that wrath, all that, when those things sit and incubate and get more intense, you end up with a much bigger problem than what you had if you deal with it that same day or within that short period of time to get a resolution. And then you get back to building trust. When you know that if I fall out with a friend, for example, I'm thinking about Batia, one of my best friends ever in life. One thing about our friendship, we have fallen out, but we always fall back in. I don't ever doubt that. I never doubt that our friendship can't take a falling out or a disagreement. I mean, thankfully now we're both mature enough that that just doesn't happen. If there's a conflict between us, both of us are mature enough to resolve it. But we were growing up, that was another story. I would get mad at her for simple things, because, and vice versa, you step on each other's toes, but not ever did I think that our friendship wouldn't withstand whatever that falling out was. And that's the level of trust that's important to have, particularly within your marriage relationship. Mm-hmm. You want to get to a place to where and God knows we fall out. I've fallen out with you 1,000 times more than I have with you.
I was just gonna say it don't take much in a marriage relationship for y'all to just be like, okay, I'm not dealing with you right now. It don't take much for that to happen. It could be something that was said, something that was done, a look, a phrase, or not giving a compliment. Not giving a compliment. Mm-hmm. And it can be anything. What you gonna eat at the church?
Mm-hmm. Or why I got to pick?
Yeah, and then you make suggestions. I don't want that.
You want to go this route? This what you want to do today?
It's great.
I'm just saying.
It's that those times, and see, just like that, I just mentioned that to see what kind of response I was gonna get. So you want to go there?
Did you get the response you were looking for?
Oh yeah, I did. I needed that on camera. But see, it could be anything. If you scratch that healing wound, it can cause it to bleed again. So be careful of how you address each other and make sure that you're not doing something that causes a minor rip in your relationship. Don't ever do something that can't be repaired. Try not to anyway. That's my advice for tonight. So also one thing that, and when I researched, I really kept this one on here because this is something that me and my wife had trouble with for years, is me making a promise and not following through. Mm. See, I'm grown enough to admit that.
You have definitely grown in the area.
Because my thing is, I would be like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm thinking it's really not a big deal if it don't get done. But to her, the words say, I'm going to get it done.
That's right. You word out the mean.
It seals the deal.
That's right.
I signed it in the app. My God. And
because that's how I was raised. I was raised by a father who did what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And so
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. So, and that's what I was raised with. I don't, and he taught us that do what you say you're going to do. And if you're not going to do it, then simply don't say you are. Mm-hmm. And that sounds just like him, don't it?
Yes. And my thing is, I learned to not make those promises. She'd be like, are you going to do this? Hey, I'm going to get around to it. I can't tell you when I'm going to do it. Then she started, as we got older in the relationship, well, I need a time frame.
Sure do. I learned that from my Bishop Bush.
She sure did,
sure
Bishop.
Did.
She got that from you, sir. And that's the standard we've been living by, and that's how we operate. And we've been good ever since. Because if I tell her on that date, if it's not done, by law of the agreement, she can come back to me and say, you said you were going to do this. And that's how we've been operating. Go ahead.
I didn't have nothing to say. You said it all.
That's great. So that's the growth that the lady and the coach been through. And we have become better because of the little things we've taken that matter to our marriage and apply it to our marriage to make our marriage better. Basically what we try to give y'all every week, just something that we can give you to make your marriage just a little bit better.
Stephanie says she needs specific details. Me too.
She does.
Me too. But you have to know who you're married to.
Right.
Because for some people, it's fine for you to say, oh, I'll get to it. For some people, that's enough.
Right.
But that ain't my testimony.
It's not, y'all.
And so you have to know who you're married to and what it takes to build trust and what you're doing that may be tearing down trust. Mm-hmm. Because that's important as well. So, yes, thank y'all for participating tonight. I didn't quite see all the comments. I see Miss Cheryl Jones. Thank you so much. And, hey, and y'all, thank you this is the end of the year. This is our last show for the year. And so we just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. We will not see you guys again face to face like we are live until the second week in January.
January 9th.
Yeah.
Is when we'll be back.
Yeah. So we will keep you posted. We'll put something out probably the week ahead just to get you kind of back into the habit, because we noticed that if we miss a week, it takes a while to get people back in the flow. Caught up, numbers go down, and it takes a while to get people back. So we're going to be looking for you guys starting back in January. If you have topics of interest or ideas that you want to share with us, we invite you to share those. You can always reach us through the comments, through direct messaging at the church web Facebook page, or on our personal web Facebook pages. Oh, have mercy. But we invite that. Mm-hmm. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all of you that have been so faithful in participating with us on these lives. It helps us to have feedback in real time, and so we appreciate you all for that.
All right, you good?
That's all I have.
So to close out this lesson, and I'll be remiss if I didn't tell you this, because the Lord gave it to me. You have to trust in Him first before we can trust each other. That has to be the first thing that is done, is to trust in the Lord, because the mistakes that happen, the growth you're going through, it's a comfort to know that both of y'all are believing in the same thing, and you're believing in a Lord and you're believing in a God that cares about you and what in your relationship. So with that said, to illustrate the point, I come from Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not into your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Amen. With that being said, from the lady and the coach, y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Love y'all. Good night.